That's a lot of batteries. But we can do better. Da 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 da. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hoover Maneuver channel. I am Dean, and today we have something a little bit different for you. We recently changed from our 44-foot toy hauler to this 2018 Newmar Ventana motorhome diesel pusher. So I did a recent project that I did not film in the toy hauler where I switched over to lithium batteries, all Victron set up and everything, and that worked out pretty great, but I let that go with the toy hauler. So we got this Ventana, and man, the motorhome's got a lot more electronics in it. A lot of more integrated stuff, a lot of what ifs and how to's and whatnots. So took it out for its maiden trip. You guys probably saw that video when we went out to Jawbone. And when we bought this thing, saw that it had these 6-volt batteries that look like they're in pretty good shape, dated October of 2022. But when we went out to the desert, again, as our main voyage, the batteries weren't keeping up. And, you know, we're kind of in a rush, and it was on my list of things to do, but I did not do was check the water in the batteries. So while we're out in Jawbone, I checked the water, and every single battery was bone dry. To get us through the weekend, I put 40 water bottles of water in there. No, it wasn't distilled, but it helped. Of course, the batteries are shot already. This motorhome came from Arizona, and I suspected that's just one of the things that they did not stay on top of. So what are we doing today? We're going to convert this over to lithium. And there are a few things to consider when you're switching over to lithium in a motorhome. For one thing, when you're in the motorhome, it's got an engine back here. The engine has an alternator, and the alternator charges the engine batteries while you're going down the road, right? So I've got two 12-volt starting batteries for the engine. But what it also does is it charges the coach batteries while you're going down the road. And the way it does that is with a battery interrupt module. And that is this device right here. So why is all that make a difference? And then I got the inverter charger. This one has the Magnum 2000 watt pure sine wave inverter that also charges the batteries and converts and all that stuff. But why is this a big deal? So the big deal, you just can't take these batteries, put them in this tray, hook them up, and be good to go. Reason being is these are flooded lead acid batteries, and the lithiums, they have different charge rates, different charge voltages, different minimums, maximums, so on and so forth. So one of the things you need to research before you do this is you need to make sure your inverter charger will do lithium. In my case, this is a 2018 coach with a 2018 Magnum inverter charger, and back then lithium was really not a deal. So this inverter charger does not have a setting for lithium. If yours has a setting for lithium, you're more than halfway home. But what this one does have, it has where I can customize all the settings. So I can do the absorption charge voltage, I can do the float, I can do all that stuff, and I'll show you guys how I make those adjustments. Getting back to the battery intercept module, this little doodad right here. When you're going down the road, again, this thing is running the alternator. Alternator's charging the engine batteries, and it's charging the coach batteries. Lead acid batteries will only take so much charge, right? Lithium batteries will pretty much take as much charge as you throw at them. They're like a just big giant sponge. Why is that important to know? Well, it's important to know because it will overwork your alternator. Don't have any of these issues on a trailer, toy hauler. But but on the motorhome you do. You don't want to overwork your alternator because it will just wear it out and fry it, and that'll be a big expense. So this battery intercept module right here, we're going to change that out to one that's compatible with lithium. And basically what it does is it will, instead of just throwing charge at the coach batteries all the time off the alternator, it'll kind of modulate that charge so you're not overworking the alternator. So first things first, what do we got to do? Well, we got to cut power to these. And after we cut power and verify we cut power, we need to take them out. And then we're going to mount up these. And I'm going from 6 batteries down to 2. I'm going from 6 volt to 12 volt. I'm going from connection in series to connection in parallel. So there are some changes going on. So I'm going to get things mocked up, get them in there, figure out my battery cables and so on. That is a slide out tray, so I still want to be able to slide it out, so I need some slack in my batteries. I don't know how much of these cables I'm going to be able to reuse until I just dig in and start doing it. So I'm going to do all that and get things mounted up. Okay, first things first. I had to select the lithium batteries that I want. Well, in my trailer, I went with the Lithium batteries, Litime batteries. It's all China stuff, but they were highly recommended and they did well for me. The thing about the Litime batteries is they didn't have a low temp cutoff, they didn't have a BMS in there, a number of things. But I just had one giant 460 amp battery. 460 is pretty good, considering these I think are 105s times 6. 730 amps, but again, these are flood acid batteries. So even though I had 730 amps, when this thing gets down to 12 volts, you basically have half the amperage. So really, I've only got about 365 amps, versus in my previous coach I had 460 amps that was all usable because it's lithium. On a lithium, when you get down 12 volts, you still got all your amperage there. I changed it up on this one. And instead of went with one 460 amp, I went with 2 300 amp. Why'd I go with 2 300 amp? Well, this motorhome is a power hog compared to the trailer, so I wanted all the power I can get. Can you get too big? Yeah, I think you can get too big. I do have solar on top. My trailer only had 380 watts of solar. This thing I've got 740 watts of solar. So the reason why that makes a difference is the bigger battery you have, the more juice you need to bring them back up to charge. And I think that the 2 300 amp batteries with the 740 or so amps of 720, whatever it is, amps of watts of solar will be okay. I could use a lot more solar in that for 600 amps, but I think this is going to be fine. So anyway, like I said, I need to get things mounted up. Before I get things mounted up, I need to cut power. In order to cut power to this thing, I got to go with my inverter way up in there. I got to cut all the power to everything because I'm still inverting. I got my refrigerator on there. This is a residential fridge unit. And I just need to verify I cut power and get things mounted up, and let's move on to there. Okay, got her all cleaned out. Got all the corrosion out of here. Got the batteries out, of course. Lubricated my battery bearing so the slide goes in there. And I cut me some rubber padding here to kind of look like an insulator. So now I'm going to put these in and figure out what orientation I'm going to do them in. Okay, so I think this is the orientation I want for the batteries. I always like to date my batteries. I like these batteries. They got a display on them. And they're pretty even at the moment. They both need to be charged. You can see that they have multiple pages, and another nice thing is you can see how even the cells are. So pretty neat deal, besides the fact that they also have BMS built in, and they have self-heating. So if you didn't know, lithium batteries can be damaged if you charge them when the temperature is too low. So what happens with these is if the temperature is 32 degrees and you have at least 10 amps coming into the battery for charge, it won't charge the batteries. Instead, it'll heat them up. There's a heater in there. It'll heat up the batteries to about 41 degrees. And once it gets to 41 degrees, then it starts charging the battery. and just naturally from charging the battery, it'll heat up or keep from freezing after that. And then the cycle goes all over again if it cools down. So this is going to work out pretty good, I think, with my cables, so I can slide it in and out and be able to get in here and see my battery status. Plus there's a Bluetooth app that'll show me everything but those batteries. So next is figuring out the cabling. I only had one cable before, and I don't think I just want to jump here and then go in, and from here and go in, but I may have to do that for now, and I'll clean it up later with a bus bar. So I almost forgot to record this part, and some of you might be interested. I'm going to make a couple of short cables. I don't have enough cabling with me. Look at this. I say I don't have enough cabling with me, but this is all too small for what I want to use. Even if I double them up, it's too small. I want to use some 2-watt cabling. It's pretty thick. You can buy this on Amazon. Don't look for battery cables. Look for welding cable. And well, it says battery cable also. But it seems that if you look for battery cables, they're more expensive than welding cable. I don't know why. So what I'm going to do is, remember, I'm going from 6-volt batteries on a 12-volt system, which had to go in a combination of series and parallel, to now I'm going to 12-volt batteries, so it's going to be strictly parallel. I'm not paralleling these my most favorite way, but that's just because of the cabling I have, and I'll show you that. But what we're going to do is we're going to make some cables. So I made this cable right here, and that's when I remembered. Maybe you want to see this. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make my negative cable. Okay, excuse my workbench. I start many projects, I don't always clean up afterwards. So I've got my cable here, and my cable is laying relaxed, and I want it to stay relaxed. I don't want to have to hook it up and try to twist these connectors right here. So all I'm doing is I'm just making a straight line so I can align my connectors where I want to be. Super simple. I've got these connectors I got off Amazon, and they're for 2-aught cable for 8mm holes, and they actually came with these pre-cut pieces of heat shrink. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to line up how much I need to cut off here. I'm going to cut off with a blade. It's pretty straightforward. Now these have been burred up on the ends a little bit, so it might be hard to get on there. Again, I'm kind of trying to line it up. And I'm sliding it on there. It doesn't have to be super exact, but there's my line, so I want it to line up with this. And the next thing to do, look at there, look at there. You could do this later because these heat shrinks are pretty large, but then after I crimp that, the heat shrink will go on, and I'll slide over there and I'll heat it up. So, being the responsible guy that I think that I am, I bought a hydraulic crimper off Amazon. And whether it was user error or because it was off Amazon, the first time I tried to use it, the crimper broke. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to crimp this with my vise. So I'm just bringing this over to my vise here, and I'm just going to squeeze the living dog you know what out of it. That's crimped pretty well. And then all I'm going to do is put it's not that good, a little extra reassurance, put the heat shrink on there, and that'll help lock these things together. Okay, so she's locked on pretty good. And remember, I want it to lay flat. That's why I made this mark on the other side. So when I do that one, this thing's not trying to, I'm not having to twist it to line up with the battery. So I'll make the other side and then we'll go back out to the batteries. Okay, cables are made. Come back out here to the motorhome, show you what I'm going to do for now. So, this is what I got going on. I've already got my positive cable going to a bus bar. I like that. I would prefer that this positive cable go to here, and then I take another cable from here to the bus bar, and that would pretty much make equal distribution. The rear, sorry if you can't see this, sorry. That cable there moving, that's my negative. It's going to a shunt, and it's not really on a bus bar. Sorry, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this one to this. Well, I prefer this go to there, and then this one go to there, and that would be equal distribution. Well, what's going to happen is I'm going to parallel these, negative, negative, and this negative up to the shunt, positive, positive, and this positive up to the bus bar. Oh my God, you're not going to charge them equally. Well, remember, I've got this handy dandy little display here that shows me my battery status. And the nice thing is I put it over here on screen number 3, and I can see how equal the cells are, and I can compare this one to that one and make sure everything's all good to go. So I prefer to have a bus bar for both, or I could actually just run a long cable like I was going to do. If I had a long positive, I run here to the bus bar. If I had a long negative, I'd run from there up to the shunt. I just don't have it right now, and it's a Sunday. So that's what I'm going to do there. We're going to pause on this because right now, no battery power going to the coach from here. So before I hook up all this stuff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change out the BIM. While I know I can be cutting power. We'll do that next. And this is Laney. Hi, Laney. Laney likes to ride. You go for a ride? Oh. So we are back to the Battery Isolation Manager, or the BIM. Again, that's going to give us full charge from the alternator to the batteries all the time. And remember, the lithium is going to suck that alternator dry. So we need to change this out for one that's compatible with lithium. So what do I have? I got this one. This is pretty famously used in this situation. The green BIM, or whatever the nicknames they have for it. So what we got to do is we've got to match up the ignition, ground, and signal circuits with the battery chassis and battery coach. And you can see we've got all those same circuits right there. And we're going to put this in upside down because the coach battery lines up with the coach battery on the left side, and the chassis battery lines up with the chassis battery on the right side by putting this upside down. And because we don't want to fight those big old heavy cables up there. So that'll be next. I'm going to make sure we got no power here, and I'll start disconnecting things. I showed you my engine battery before. There's a cutoff switch. Make sure you know where your cutoff switches are, and then double check that you've cut off the voltage by using a test light. All right, so I double checked and I still got voltage at the BIM, even though I had turned that off. But if you look carefully at the wiring, you see that these are in parallel. One leg goes off to here and feeds part of the coach. Another leg goes over here and feeds the engine. So I'm literally going to have to disconnect the battery here to make sure that I'm completely off. And look, I got more legs here going to the coach. So I'm probably going to have to take off a positive and a negative to completely kill this thing. Okay, as planned, I've got the green BIM, the lithium compatible BIM in here. I put it upside down because of the way these lined up from the old BIM. I had to have chassis battery and coach batteries. And then I had to extend these wires, and just, because I didn't have exactly pink, white, and orange wire, what I did was, instead of putting new ends and making the wires longer, I just added some wire in the middle. That way I kept my same colors at the end here. Just helps me out right there. And don't forget to put back all the other connections exactly like they were. So this was on the on this side before. So that came out pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to turn my engine batteries, reconnect those, turn them on, and hopefully no sparks will fly. And then we'll get back to the lithiums. Okay, where are we at? Well, we've got the engine batteries hooked back up, and no sparks are flying. This is on. Everything's worked. Nothing's blown up yet. Working away over here to the BEM, and the BEM is going. I got proper voltage there. My converter is showing that I've got I'm on 50 amp service right now, showing that I got good voltage, good frequency, and we've got our batteries snugged down, hooked up. So I'm running parallel again, and I'm going positive into the coach, negative into the coach. This is for my Magnum inverter converter. The batteries are currently charging at about 33 amps. Everything looks good. When you tuck your wires, if you have a sliding tray, make sure that they're not going to get snagged up when you go in and out. But we're not done. So now we need to set up the settings on the inverter. So what I'm going to show you next is for the Magnum inverter. I think it's a model MS 2012, and we'll show you what that is. But again, if you have an inverter that has a lithium setting, just put on lithium and you're good to go. But this one we got set up on a custom. Okay, some of the wiring I didn't like. So I showed you how I had power ground here, and I had to jump from this battery to that battery, and that's just not even. So I was able to finagle this cord a little bit. I was able to finagle this cord a little bit better, so that I'm getting positive from this battery, negative from that battery. And the reason why it's kind of important is the charge rates on here. This is at 44.7, that's at 43.7. They're within an amp of each other. When I had positive negative coming from the same battery and then just the other battery paralleled into it, I was getting about 4 or 5 amps difference. So the charge rate was different by about 4 or 5 amps. I just now got this over here positive on this battery, negative on that battery, and they're already getting closer. About 44.5, 43.7, 43.9. So they're staying within an amp of each other. So that's much better. I feel better about that. I want to make sure you guys knew I did that. Okay, so we're not set quite right here. That's the control panel to my Magnum inverter. Remember, we turned all the power off, so lost the presets I had on everything before. So you'll keep that in mind. You'll need to go in and set your clocks, all that sort of thing. But here's the deal. Here's what you're looking for. You look for things like your absorption volts, your float volts, equalizing volts, your maximum charge, and so on. And you want to get out your documentation to your particular lithium battery, and you want to look at what the nominal voltage is and the charge voltage is, and the maximum continuous charge and the recommended charge. So with those things, you want to go in and set up your inverter. If you don't already have the lithium preset, even if you do have the lithium preset, you can double check those things and make sure that that preset is set up for your particular batteries. So anyway, I'm going to be setting mine up for custom because I don't have lithium preset on mine. But since I can do custom, I'm going to set it all up so it'll work with the lithium. A couple other things. You have solar. You need to check, reconnect to your solar charge controller and make sure that is set up with the same parameters that we talked about for your lithium battery. Also, if you have a auto gen start, you want to look at that too. And especially if you're relying off of, it's going to start at a low voltage, kick off at a high voltage, how long it's going to stay there, so on and so forth. So you're going to reset all those parameters. And those are going to be pretty much set up what's particular to the lithium battery that you bought. So, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for going on this little lithium conversion journey with me. Please like, share with your friends, leave me a comment. I'm sure I skipped a bunch of steps. I'm sure there's some things I could have been more clear on, and I'm sure there's some things you're going to catch me on. But nevertheless, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.